Family Guy did what?
That's crazy. I didn't see it yet.
Family Guy called out for the Nipsey Hussle joke that resurfaced in the episode.
Here, I'll play it so you guys can listen to it. I don't know if we're actually allowed to play the clip.
Music festival, huh? You think the Von Trapps will stick around to pick up their award this time?
I don't know about them, but they're gonna have holograms of Tupac and also Nipsey Hussle, who I'd never heard of and then was told to care immensely about.
Oh, wow.
What?
Festival.
Wow. That nigga just said they're gonna have 2 holograms, Tupac and Nipsey Hussle, who I've never heard of, and then was told to care immensely about.
No, he did
How
a pause. So
disrespectful.
basically gave his flowers to Tupac, and then the writer made sure to make it seem like
That's crazy.
Nipsey was irrelevant.
That's extremely disrespectful.
That's that white humor.
So
Facts.
maybe, but also I think it does strike a larger point that here in LA, Nipsey was a huge deal because of his impact to the community and what he did here.
And we care about him very dearly.
And you guys cared about him immensely. Outside of this community, outside of LA, no, like, chart-wise, like, yes, he had music, but was it music that was being played on the radio constantly around the country? Like, nobody else had really heard about all of the things that he'd been doing for his community, for all of these things until, after he died. And for the national media, for most of the people out there, kids, young, influential kids, they had never heard of Nipsey until he passed. I think that's a reality that they were poking a joke at, not so much to be disrespectful to Nipsey.
I get it, but it's still in bad taste. It's still
the
in
fact that
very
he's
bad
dead.
taste.
He's not with us anymore. And yes, Nipsey is very impactful. And I think that goes to say that it's probably was a lot of fake love out here for him more than it was real when you're talking about other regions. But at the end of the day, like, this is just fucking disrespectful.
It's fuck.
Like, he's dead.
That shit is
Like, that's disrespectful. It wasn't even funny.
Yeah, that shit was out. That was disrespectful as fuck.
And I think people's argument is like Family Guy just makes fun of everybody.
I bet they do.
They've gone at every culture. During COVID, they went at the Asians hard. During like Trump's era, they went at the Latinos hard. During, when they always point at jokes with like the black community. They have a main character named Toker with what is it, Token? Oh, not Family Guy. What the fuck?
Are
I'm
you talking about
sorry.
South Park?
That's South Park. But I'm talking about
South
like
Park.
Family Guy just is known to poke at everything. I don't like the joke. I'm you feel me? Like, I'm from LA and we understand the love and the like the respect we have for Nip and the things he done for the city. We see it up to the Most High, but
It's a
But
lot
how
of
much
people,
of that was talked about and how much of that was known outside of LA?
Look, it's a
before he
lot
died?
of people that was big in their community and wasn't known to a certain extent outside of that shit, but that don't like make it acceptable for
No,
you to make
for
kind
sure
of
not.
jokes
No.
about that nigga because
And
like, you know
this
what I'm
is
saying?
also, we're talking about an icon whose death we seen happen on camera.
And you gotta still
Like,
ain't
that
this-
shit hurt
ain't
everybody.
this still isn't the nigga still on trial for this? This is still an open trial.
Yeah, and look
The
how
nigga
fresh
ain't been sentenced.
they saying that this happened in 2021, so it was even more fresher.
That
then.
nigga ain't been sentenced.
this
if I'm
happened in
not mistaken.
2021.
The Family Guy clip. I think I just seen
It was that old?
Yeah,
Oh,
there it is.
shit.
Aired April 2021. When did he die? March 31st, 2019.
Yeah, it was 2019 for sure.
Yeah.
Open wounds, pops.
Yeah,
Like that's
nigga,
not. It's not funny. Like that's not funny.
Nah, nigga, it's still an open trial. Making jokes about an open trial is crazy.
And then that's to, I feel like that joke, the direction that the joke went was to, like, to me, that sounded like a complete shit on Nipsey, when if the purpose of the joke was to talk about everybody else just finding, randomly caring about him now, then I feel like they could have addressed that audience, not to make the joke about Nipsey.
Yeah, and I do think it's a joke that's not received well by you guys, but I
At
think
all.
was still just a very general joke. It was pointing the fact that nobody,
I get.
these are
I'm not fucking with it, bro.
the premise of the joke, which again doesn't make jokes funny when you have to start explaining them. But
Yeah.
the premise of the joke is they're going to a rap show where they don't know anything, regardless. They're not fans of the music they're going to see. Like, That I think is the joke that they're trying to play
That was
off.
the bit. That was the bit.
That's the bit. So them now going to explain who they're seeing, they're taking a headline, which was a talking point that, hey, Nipsey died and that was a big deal. And then everyone in LA kind of explained why it was a big deal and the national media became more aware of it. But it was I've never heard of this guy. Why is he important? And now that he's dead, what happened?
I
There was
just
all
think
these
it's
questions.
in bad taste because they.
You also
they
never heard
emphasize
of
Tupac.
Trayvon Martin. You never heard of George Floyd. These are regular people who we've seen shit happen to them and it impacted society a lot. And Nipsey's death was so freaking impactful. For number one, his contribution to the community. And for number two, it happened on camera. And this person is still on trial for it. So it's like, yeah, you can make jokes about COVID and you can make jokes about all this other shit, but these are people who are alive. Kids and dead people are like just completely off the table to me when it comes to jokes.
I think, I just didn't like it because they emphasized they're going to have holograms of Tupac. Pause. And
I think,
also,
again,
Nipsey
these were
Hussle, who
taken
I've
out of
never
like
heard
direct headlines. So I think the Grammys that year did have a hologram of Tupac and Nipsey.
Nah, that's not what I'm saying. I'm
think
saying
these
the
are-
pause of how they're saying they got holograms of Tupac. We know who that is. And also Nipsey, who I've never heard of. And that's the point. You're making
That's
it
what I'm saying.
a whole point of we don't know who the fuck this nigga is.
It's
And
disrespectful.
that's disrespectful.
I think I get what
It's
you're
not
saying.
an attack. To me, it's not a joke it's talking about the headlines. It's literally talking about
how
him,
much they don't know who the fuck he
that
is.
he's a nobody.
Really,
like
literally.
that's why I find it disrespectful because it's coming straight at him rather than I can see if the joke was something about like, oh, ABC News decided to cover this person and they never talked about him before.
I think as Los Angelans here, you guys are very sensitive to this topic. And
Absolutely.
Hell
Yeah, which is okay.
gonna be sensitive
I
to
think
legends.
I get Josh's point.
I
What
hope
he-
they're
what he's
sensitive
saying-
in
what he's
Florida
saying-
with
what he's
Trayvon
saying-
Martin.
What he's saying to people, and
You feel me?
You know what I mean? Like,
I will hope so. Just because you don't understand the importance of some shit doesn't make it any less important.
but Family Guy, as a premise, has joked on all of these topics.
I get it. That shit don't make it cool though.
But how much do they go at dead people where it's disrespectful?
Pretty often, I think most
South Park's even worse, dog.
comedy in and of itself tries to be offensive.
Dead
Tries
people
to
who-
make you be
It's very
uncomfortable.
dark humor.
I
But
feel
we're
like
also
it's
not in a
different
time-
when the nigga still, bro. The nigga ain't even went to jail yet. Like,
Yeah, I think
I
that's
mean, the nigga ain't
specifically.
even got sentenced yet.
I think that's specifically, and
The joke
and also I
wasn't
get the point.
how he died, that he was dead, or anything. The joke, in and of itself, was this
No,
is
but
someone
saying
we don't know
hologram-
who it's about, but it's a big deal.
I get what you're saying, and specifically when we do laugh at these jokes when it happens to be somebody that kind of like, Nip was a huge part of our fucking culture community, and especially you guys as black people, it's like what he did is crazy, but usually the jokes that are being made are about like people like R. Kelly, Bill Cosby, and shit. You know what I mean?
That's what I'm
and
saying.
and Nip's nowhere near that. You know what I'm saying? So I think that's where it's like shit doesn't even this.
If it's a shitty individual,
Yes.
yeah. 'Cause-
Fuck it. We're gonna
Yeah,
laugh
like you
about
can
it.
make
look how
jokes
many-
about Kanye and saying he a fish man and shit like that.
One of their most
but, like,
popular bits
you know
in
what I'm
Family
saying?
Guy is a child predator.
that's
know what I
cool.
mean?
Oh, fucking.
And that's cool.
That's acceptable, nigga.
The creepy old guy.
What's his
Nigga,
name?
I thought you was talking about
Chris.
the Charles Manson shit.
Oh no, he's a
No.
child predator.
I mean
when you
the
roasting
Chris
on
Hansen.
people who are
The Chris
shitty
Hansen
people
shit.
and are
I'm back to Family Guy.
and are an endanger to humanity, yeah.
Josh said one of the shitty. That's a shitty bit.
Yeah,
I
I feel
get-
like that's bringing awareness.
I feel it, but
Yeah.
But is that funny? Like it's terrible, but that's what the show is based on.
Yeah,
Making
yeah,
you
it's-
laugh on
what
uncomfortable
I'm
like
shit.
saying-
that's different though.
Yeah.
That's a generalization about a made up character and a made up situation. Like, yeah,
That's
it
also a valid
happens.
point.
It happens in real life, but it's a made up character. It's a made up situation. It's a whole made up scenario. But it's a real person.
He didn't say anything untrue.
What you mean?
Most of the country had no idea who Nipsey Hussle was when he died.
Still, that don't mean make a joke about how irrelevant he is to you. That's basically, I've never heard of him in Total Care. That's saying he's irrelevant, but we like Tupac.
That's the joke.
Yeah, and I think it's disrespectful as fuck. And I don't think it's funny.
I'm biased, and I'm okay with saying that.
me too. I'm very biased.
I'm
I
biased.
love comedy to death. I love it, and I'm a student of it. I watch a lot of shit. I've laughed at trauma that's happened to my community when it and I'll be totally honest with that. But I am very biased. But I'm also biased with shit like that. Like, you know what I mean? Like even like when a lot of people thought the fucking Nelk Boy shit was funny when they pulled up to Home Depot and had the ice on the truck and the guys ran. Like a lot of people thought it was funny. Oh, it's a prank. But I'm biased so I understand why everybody could be biased to their own things. You get what I'm saying? So I'm pretty sure people that went through trauma of a child predator, they don't think that Mr. They don't, you know. So everybody's allowed to pick and choose what's funny or not. And obviously, yes, you know what I mean. So I totally get it. I totally get it if it's just, and I totally get if the joke is just a joke. But when you're the intention that you hurt, I think it's different. Like I think, you know, but I also get it's.
But this is a platform that's unbelievably clear with what they're messaging.
Yeah, facts.
This is not public access. This is not something that you're being forced to watch in school and making you feel a certain way. This is a dark comedy show that honestly isn't even that funny. It's like way past the point in which
it's hella cringy now.
Yeah, I haven't watched Family Guy in probably 8 years.
You know what's funny though? I ain't gonna lie, South Park.
I watched the
and South
COVID
Park even
special
had
and everything, and that was
they had
funny. Michael
Michael Jackson. It was like Michael Jackson jokes and stuff with him with kids and shit. I've even seen on Family Guy where they had a whole thing with O.J. Simpson.
Oh no, bro!
I'm pretty sure Michael Jackson wasn't dead though when they was making the Michael Jackson shit.
Nah, he was.
He was
dead.
alive.
No,
he was dead.
Both. They made episodes after he died, but
and before as
and
well.
before, yeah.
I also.
Do you remember
just
that
think-
episode where all the dead celebrities are on the plane and they're
Hell
waiting
yeah.
for his soul?
Oh my
Hell
god,
yeah.
bro!
I just think that like
Girl.
you feel me, like Nipsey was bigger than a lot of us may realize. I think just because he wasn't on the radio and he not Lil fucking Baby, that motherfuckers be like, oh, we didn't know who he is. But this is a nigga who was signed to Rock Nation. This is a nigga who sold 1,000 like 1,000 units of a tape for $1,000. You know what I'm saying? Like this is a nigga who did shit that transgresses just California and transgresses LA. So to just discredit him and just be like, well, a lot of people didn't know who he was. A lot of people don't know a lot of shit, but that doesn't discredit it at all. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, just because everybody didn't know it, like, you feel me?
No,
Like,
but I
that
think
shit
the
is in
whole
terrible taste.
joke and the whole take in it is that people are talking about him now, and there were a lot of people questioning the fake flowers given to him. That was a narrative put out by a whole lot of people, showing a whole lot more love for him after he was gone than before he was here.
I think that's everybody, though.
I mean, I question
It
a
is,
lot
but
of.
there's people were putting him, and again, like on a very high pedestal of this massive artist, and he wasn't. He was a massive person. He was a good person who did a lot of good things for his community, but as an artist, he wasn't on the same level as these biggest artists when they died, which would catch more attention.
But I mean, sometimes somebody's death might make them more impactful than they were when they was here. Because even though,
That's
like,
true.
when he died, we seen for the first time niggas from other hoods being
No,
able
most
to
definitely.
be on Crenshaw and Slauson. We seen people having candlelight visuals across the world. We have never seen nothing like that for any deaths. That across the world, that people are having these candlelight visuals for Nipsey. Usually, a candlelight visual literally happens in one place, and that's where that person died at. Like, so yeah, I get that a lot of people probably wasn't talking about him and he wasn't like the main topic of conversation, but he was so impactful that like a joke like this is just like, it's I don't know, it's just
This
disrespectful.
goes back to the niggas was just in here arguing an hour ago how impact could be bigger than numbers. That nigga
Yeah.
impact is way bigger
No,
than his
facts.
numbers. You could say like, oh, he wasn't a top selling this and top selling that.
No, but his national notoriety, whether his impact was big or not here, and I'm not questioning that whatsoever, it wasn't, his celebrity wasn't known across the country before he died to the level it was here. Not even close.
Of course, it's not gonna be a level he was here because this is where you from. But
almost
everybody knew that. nigga in
almost
the country.
non-existent.
I don't agree. The nigga was signed to Rock Nation. That's not even a label that's based out of here. That's a whole East Coast label.
But just because somebody is signed does not mean that they're popular.
I'm not saying that they're not, but you said, but I'm just saying like a lot of regional artists are signed to.
I think most
to
people
Empire,
don't know
and they're
most of
signed
the
to
artists
West
who are
Coast
signed.
shit.
Though.
That nigga wasn't even signed to a West Coast label. Nigga was signed to Rock Nation. The nigga sold
Right, but being signed to a label doesn't necessarily
1,000
mean
units
you're
for
known.
100,000. Nigga can't tell me nothing. Jay-Z bought them. Fuck are we talking about? This not even a legend from here. Jay-Z bought how many of them motherfuckers? Like 1,000 of them? What are we saying?
I know. But as sad as as much as we respect that, Family Guy doesn't care about none of that. You know what I mean? So
I'm
it's
not
just-
saying they don't. I'm
yeah.
arguing Josh and Nipsey's star power.
And
That's
if,
what I'm
yeah,
arguing
no,
right
I
now.
get what you're saying.
And I think his star power is much, much higher after he died across the country than it was
That's
even
everybody.
close.
Niggas didn't make no documentaries about X until he fucking died.
I think people knew about X all across the country at the point.
Niggas
of
knew
him
about
dying,
Nipsey
though.
all across the country. Niggas had visuals all
I don't
around
think
the
at
world.
the same level.
Of course you're not, because he was a fucking weirdo and he made weirdo SoundCloud music. Nipsey was a Crip who made nigga Crip street type of music. Of course his appeal can't be as vast because as many people can relate to him. Of course people can relate to I want to kill myself and I want face tats. Of course.
If there
There's
was
more people
murals
who
and
can relate
if
to
there
that.
was more
Right.
murals and visuals of
But I
him
think you're
across
proving
the
my point.
I'm just I don't agree.
But I think you just proved my point.
Nah, I think it's easier. That might be right, but it's easier to have a more appeal when you make a different type of music, and I think that speaks to Nipsey's star power even more because he made a certain type of music, and people still fucked with him around the entire world. So I think that speaks to his star power even more because he didn't make relatable weirdo music, and people still love the
'Cause
nigga.
what
across
would be the
world.
reason why people was having all these candlelight visuals and making murals of him across the world if he didn't have any impact?
That's what I want to know. What was it for? Because they thought he was a cool dude.
I get.
I think that you can acknowledge a tragedy without
Most
understanding everything. But
What was the difference from
happened
X's
after it.
then? What was the difference? What's the difference? Niggas didn't. What's the difference?
X wasn't killed by his friend in broad daylight in front of his store. That is a story that is going to have attention.
He was killed inside a fucking car lot buying a car.
Right. A completely different way of dying.
I'm just saying they're both tragic
Nobody-
ways. That's a terrible cop out. You were
No, that
shot
is-
by your friend, so it's
The
more
fact that
important
they're
than getting
rappers
shot
makes
in a
no.
car.
The
Is
fact that
what we
they're
saying?
rappers makes it a more interesting story. Regardless, they're both rappers. The story got interest because of who they were. If they were regular people, they'd had no music career. We all agree these stories would not have the traction they were in the way that they died. Right?
I would agree to a certain extent.
Okay. So my saying is X as a rapper who is possibly listened to by more people across the country outside of Florida at the time of his death. Those people felt impacted. They were sad. They were they felt emotionally attached and they were sad by his passing. They understood it and they were really pissed and sad about the occurrence. When Nip died,
I think that's just your understanding of it, because that's cap. I
Dude.
cried. I didn't give a fuck when X died. Nigga, I cried when Nipsey died.
you're from LA. You knew.
I'm just saying.
Like, you have such a more personal attachment to Nip. You're not being able to look at this from an outside perspective. You're only looking at it from your perspective.
I'm just saying, like, you're looking at it from, oh, well, people didn't listen to his music everywhere, but niggas knew who the fuck he was. He was a person who like we said,
I think
his
that's your
impact-
perception.
His
I don't
impact
think-
transgressed his numbers. Just because he didn't chart shit that doesn't mean anything. Jay-Z bought 1,000 of them bitches. Somebody was listening to it.
I think when
Jay-Z being on his label, being signed
That
to
was 10
him,
years before the label where
Okay.
he came and bought 1,000 of them copies.
So clearly he
that was a
believed
whole
in him.
decade before.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's a whole not a LA legend, not somebody from here. That's somebody from New York across the country who's fucking with his shit and believes in it. Clearly, there's something great about this man. That's all I'm saying. Just because motherfuckers didn't know, a lot of people didn't know Gandhi was great until he died. Motherfuckers didn't know Jesus was great until he died. Like, what are we saying? Just because motherfuckers didn't understand, sometimes
did know
motherfuckers,
that Gandhi was great
sometimes
before he died.
motherfuckers and people knew that Nipsey was great before he died, but people
in this
more
area.
people knew
But
that
there
he
was
was great
world
when
coverage
Gandhi
of what
died.
Gandhi was doing with his
I'm sure
hunger
he
strike,
fought
and
for some
people
whole
around
different
the
shit.
world knew about what he was going on.
My
way before
point
he died.
still stands. My
It
point
doesn't.
still stands. Yes, it does.
No,
My
you
point still
say
stands.
it does, but it doesn't
My
actually.
point still stands. Your point doesn't stand. You said a nigga just because he didn't top chart and a couple and people didn't know about it, that it wasn't important when he died.
I
What are
did
we
not say
saying?
that whatsoever.
You said it wasn't as
No,
important.
that is not what I said
That's what
whatsoever.
you said.
What I said is people knowing who he was when he died.
You said
before
it
he
wasn't
died.
as. You said more people figured out that after he died about how great he was. Sometimes a motherfucker is so complex and great that you can't understand it until he dies.
The entire point in this conversation, the joke, was that nobody knew, or a lot less people knew who he was before he died.
And my point was that doesn't take away from his greatness, and that
Nobody is arguing that. You're the only one arguing that.
You basically were.
No, you're talking about greatness. You're talking about
saying
impact.
that the joke was cool.
No, I'm not saying the joke was cool.
I watched your face when I said the joke wasn't cool. You made a crazy ass face to it. Like, what are we saying? I'm gonna just shut up. RP Nipsey. I'm over it.
Okay.
Fuck are we talking about? We can't play with that nigga's a legend in every stand. It doesn't give a fuck if you're from here. I don't give a fuck if you're from Timbuktu. Nigga, it's a legend.
Timbuktu's crazy.
I don't give a fuck where you from. Nigga, that's a legend.